The universe, the lifeblood of all things, the home of a billion stars, each with its place in the order of the heavens, and each governed by the infinite law of the cosmos. As the ever-expanding energy of the universe continues to grow in a sea of fusion and creation, the infinite depth of the cosmic reality embraces itself in the fabric of destiny, and the awareness of mankind grows in accordance with the rule of cosmic law. Since the dawn of humanity, we have looked out towards the stars as if compelled by an unknown force, telling us, you are not alone. You are all part of the evolution of the universe, on your way to higher realms of enlightenment. The expanding universe, with its infinite complexities and compelling influences, is the kaleidoscope of man's dreams. With new attitudes and new points of view, our understanding is growing, bringing scientific influence towards new horizons. At last, we are beginning to grasp the meaning of the primeval commandment, "Know thyself," which is inscribed over the portal of Delphi. Today, we have a new model concept of science which proves that all natural systems, from minerals to man, inherit a collective memory of their kind. The awareness of our fundamental heritage is inherent in our being. The awakening of the wisdom of the whole is inexorably endorsed within the essence of our spirit. The influence from motivation to germination is the basis of our existence and is predictable in the course of our evolution. The pyramids reveal the wonders of our ancient past. They harness their proliferating energy from the cosmos that it may be utilized by another civilization in its many fields of endeavor. Our awareness of the origin of these citadels derives from past generations. It is inherent in the soul of civilized man to build such structures, reaching towards the source of unseen powers. The challenge of future accomplishment is the driving force behind human progress. From the horizon of the past, the traditions and memories of visiting cosmic teachers has remained engraved in cultural art. This tradition dates from the era when spacecraft visited Earth from distant worlds. the ancient Indians of Peru were a highly advanced civilization who lived thousands of years ago in the jungle of South America. Their traditions speak of visiting spaceman. At their reservations are the amazing Nazca lines, which are etched into the earth and which are acknowledged as being aircraft runways and landing sites. Artifacts of great age have been found which closely resemble aircraft of today. The sensational crop formations of England have generated great interest, and the question has to be asked if there is any connection with the etching in Peru.
Ich kenne die Hopi-Indianer sehr gut. Sie leben heute in Arizona. Aber ihre alte Geschichte.
I know the Hopi Indians very well. Today they live in Arizona. But their old traditions say that many, many thousands of years ago their home was in South America, and that at that time they were descended upon by extraterrestrial visitors called Kachinas. These Kachinas also saved the Hopi Indians when their continent threatened to sink. These heavenly beings, the Kachinas, were the teachers of the Hopi. And even today, the Hopi Indians make figures of the Kachinas for the younger generations, so that no one should forget the visit of their original teachers from outer space. And even today, the Hopi are convinced that one day the Kachinas will come again. In this connection, it's interesting that a short time ago I showed White Bear, one of the oldest members of the Hopi, pictures of the Maya cities Tikal and Palenque. He was beside himself with excitement and said, "We understand that. Our ancestors built that under the guidance of the Kachinas."
The great energy source of the cosmos can be extracted and focused to form a very potent electrical and magnetic power form. It is a power of great destructive potential, and the ability to control it can only be given to those of higher understanding and achievement. Such power sources were built into the Great Pyramids by another race thousands of years ago, when they needed recharging facilities for their spacecraft while on reconnaissance flights around the universe. The units were built within the protective framework of the pyramids to protect them from discovery. As the world focuses on the mystery of the Egyptian temples, our space probes have located similar strange pyramids on Mars. The readings of the early Bible told many stories of Earth being visited by heavenly teachers on blazing chariots who gave information of great wisdom. They told of how they had always been in the sky and would return one day. This is one of the prophecies of the Bible, which was taken from the word of the visitors. How did modern man go about interpreting these holy clues? The visionaries of the past perceived the structure of the cosmos and its purpose. The life spirit of the elements is a constantly changing mirror of charged perception and energy. The spiral of conscious awareness is the consequence of harmonizing with this harmonic vibration. Within the evolutionary circle of cosmic regeneration is the life force of progression, through which the universal memory of intuition is formed. Leonardo da Vinci was a man of great vision. He realized the significance of the hologram of man in relation to his place in the order of the universe. Many of the first astronomers studied the sky principally from an ideological standpoint. Galileo Galilei applied himself to analyzing the cosmos with a view to finding out just how it worked. Kepler believed in the law of equal equation, whereby all scientific experience could be solved by the use of mathematics. The real world is the mathematical harmony discoverable in all things. He also had visions involving space travel, and this already at the beginning of the 17th century. In a letter to Galilei, he wrote, "Let us create vessels and sails adjusted to the heavenly ether, and there will be plenty of people unafraid of the empty wastes. In the meantime, we shall prepare for the brave sky travelers maps of the celestial bodies. I shall do it for the moon, you, Galilei, for Jupiter." Isaac Newton spent many years studying alchemical research, cosmic intelligences, and the soul of the world. His law of universal gravitation involves a holistic vision. Every particle of matter attracts every other particle. Everything is interconnected, but in Newton's opinion, such a force could not arise from the particles themselves. They had no such attractive power. Rather, said Newton, gravitational force depends on the being of God. It is an expression of his will. This aspect of Newton's thought was soon forgotten, however. The hidden forces permeating the space of the universe were soon attributed to matter itself. They arose from material reality rather than from God. And when God was finally dissolved completely away from Newton's vision, what was left was a world machine in absolute mathematical space and time, containing inanimate forces and matter, and entirely governed by eternal mathematical laws. Like Kepler, Albert Einstein was strongly imbued with a sense of the mathematical rationality of the universe. He wrote, "The individual feels the futility of human desires and aims, and the sublimity and marvelous order which reveal themselves in both nature and in the world of thought. Individual existence impresses him as a kind of prison, and he wants to experience the universe as a single magnificent whole." What a deep conviction of the rationality of the universe, and what a yearning to understand Kepler and Newton must have had, to enable them to spend years of solitary labor in disentangling the principles of celestial mechanics. Only one who has devoted his life to similar ends can have a vivid realization of what has inspired these men and given them the strength to remain true to their purpose in spite of countless failures. For 10,000 years, man has tried to equate with the enormity of the cosmos. The concept of an evolutionary universe, which started with gods from the stars, spaceships and telescopes, will carry us into a totally changed life.
If we consider that most of the stars in the Milky Way are twice as old than our sun, 10,000 million years old, then obviously there may be highly advanced old civilizations which have developed interstellar travel. So my answer would be it is more than likely, not only possibly, but more than likely, that extraterrestrial visitors are traveling to other solar systems, other planetary systems. Thus, we really should expect extraterrestrial visitors in our solar system observing human civilization.
As fantastic as this may seem, photographs of unknown flying craft, known as UFOs, have been taken around the world, captivating the public's attention for decades. This photograph was taken in 1978 in Brazil. This was photographed in Switzerland in 1975. These two UFOs were also photographed in Switzerland in 1975. This was taken in 1971 in Austria. This one was seen in 1987 in Canada. This UFO was photographed in Germany in 1977. This was taken in Colombia in 1971. This photograph of a shiny silver object was taken in North Charleston, South Carolina in 1980. Yet another photograph from Switzerland taken in 1975. This UFO with a cloud-like vapor was taken in 1974 in Denmark. This UFO was sighted in 1977 in Uruguay. A UFO in Indonesia, photographed in 1974. These three luminous flying objects were photographed in Barcelona, Spain in 1978. Every year, increasing numbers of UFO photographs are being taken by witnesses from around the world, giving growing evidence of extraterrestrial visitors. In 1946, George Adamski, a professor of philosophy, using his cine camera, took the first moving pictures of alien spacecraft. This film shows the strange flight pattern of these machines. This picture shows three balls beneath the craft serving as condensers for static electricity. This film, also taken by Adamski, shows a telemeter disc, described as being a very small but highly technical reconnaissance craft. Adamski was an amateur astronomer who had a 6-inch telescope on the slopes of Mount Palomar. In 1946, he observed a huge cigar-shaped UFO and was astounded to see many smaller UFOs emerge from the mother craft. He was able to take a series of photographs of this amazing sight. After taking many photographs of these alien flying machines, an event took place which would change the course of Adamski's life. On November 20th, 1952, he had his first contact with a human-looking alien visitor. Adamski was walking in a desert canyon in California when he came face to face with an extraterrestrial standing beside a landed spacecraft. The alien told Adamski that the meeting was not by accident and that he had come to give a message. He warned of the danger we were creating by exploding nuclear weapons. He said that the human race had no idea of the very powerful and deadly long-term effects we were creating, which could not only destroy ourselves, but also our planet, and that the continued use of such weapons could eventually endanger our cosmic neighbors. Adamski was asked to spread this message. The alien visitor promised that he would return and meet Adamski at a later time. Adamski was later taken for flights into space, where deeper, more meaningful messages were given to help the human race to understand another point of view of our world. Adamski devoted his time to spreading the visitor's message and was later joined by a Danish Air Force Major, Hans Petersen.
Well, you see, after the contact in the desert, George had an inner feeling that this was not the end of it. On one of his flights, made more flights, but one particular he was taking on board a mothership, which is a very, very large ship who is taking all the other vehicles into our atmosphere. And in there, he met a lot of people, and he met an old man, so to speak, a wise man, who told him a lot of why they were here and what we did wrong here on Earth. And after these experiences, George wrote a book, Inside the Spaceships.
In this book, Adamski described in detail the very advanced technology used in the spaceships, including technical information on the magnetic and gravitational propulsion systems, which work on a power found throughout the universe. He also described a magnetic pole running through the center of the ship that was also a very powerful periscope, which could observe both above and below the craft with great magnification. Adamski's alien friends gave him a pendant to wear around his neck and was told it would increase his telepathic abilities and enable him to maintain contact with them. Another witness who was truly shattered by his experience when he saw and photographed a UFO was Dr. Daniel Fry. Dr. Fry was a rocket engineer and the head of a scientific team employed by the American government at the White Sands Missile Proving Grounds in New Mexico when he took these films and photographs. On July 4th, 1949, Dr. Fry was contacted by alien visitors for the first time. They informed him that mankind lives in danger of total self-destruction through means it had created itself, and that Earth technology was advancing faster than man's ability to control himself. He was told that peace was the automatic byproduct of understanding between man, and race, also that the understanding of fellow human beings was the key to building a united world.
The most significant experience that I had is probably the finding out of the major purpose for this invasion, so to speak, was to keep this planet alive, that we're approaching an area of controversy which could result in the displacement of all humanity, because we had learned how to do that without learning how to get along with each other.
Dr. Fry later wrote a book called To Men of Earth, in which he told the story of his experiences and contacts with the space visitors. He continues to travel, giving lectures and spreading the word from his alien friends. Dr. Fry attracts a great deal of support from people in all walks of life.
We rushed outside, and there came a spaceship sailing, passing us, making a curve, going down south and coming in from the south, passing over our heads and disappearing to the north. And 1 hour later, it came back and passed in low altitude, and it passed the moon, which has come up meanwhile, so you could see it was an Adamski-type saucer. I've been so close to them. I have had the telemeter dish, the small flying saucers which are making reconnaissance within 75 meters, 2 of them. I have one being disintegrated on my terrace. I have seen flying saucers, the George Adamski type, within 200 meters in front of my car. I have seen 2 flying saucers land, both cases with my wife, so I had a witness.
The founder of the German UFO Society, Carl Veit, is also a publisher of UFO books. For decades, he has published books written by contactees. Many years ago, he had the foresight to realize the value of the information.
There were 12 of us sitting in the garden, and the pictures were shown by this television man. And I explained them again as well as I could. And in the middle of my explanation, the baby daughter, she was the youngest member of this family, called out, "Daddy, what is that?" and pointed up. We were all looking at the screen, and then we also looked. And there, vertically above us, or nearly vertically, there was a wonderful large UFO, rather low. Of course, we were all amazed. We gazed up, we waved, and in a way gave thanks that they had come during the UFO lecture and wished to greet us, or to say, "Yes, we are here, the ones you're talking about."
Tony Dodd is a retired British police sergeant who had a close encounter with a UFO. Since that time, he has become the director of investigations for Quest International, Europe's largest UFO investigation organization.
I was driving a police patrol vehicle in a remote area in Yorkshire when I saw the most amazing disc-shaped flying machine. This machine was about 100 meters off the road, above the road. It was glowing white, bright white. It had colored lights rotating around the underside of it. It had a dome on the top with what appeared to be portholes. It was going at no more than 30 kilometers per hour. But the strange thing was that it was making no sound. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This was no doubt a real UFO. I'm convinced of this. It did not resemble anything that we have which is flying around in the sky. It had an effect on my police car radio, it blanked out the transmissions with a very heavy static effect. The object moved away from us and disappeared into the distance and appeared to land in a forest on a hillside.
George once told me that they work in all countries, all over the world. And they live among us, they have jobs. One day, George met a couple in New York on Fifth Avenue. He was looking in a shop in the window, and a couple passed him with a little boy between them. And he got this strange feeling that they were space people. And he put a thought towards them. Are you space people? Then come back. They turned around and came back and said, your thought is correct.
Adamski was given insight into the purpose of his life by his extraterrestrial friends.
And in this sense, all these people who have come into contact with extraterrestrial beings are confronted with these wonderful facts, and they have also had an insight into their lives. Why they are here. That's what was also said to George Adamski, that he should, so to say, be a pioneer in the field of ufology, because in the development of the human race, we now face great, higher problems.
The first thing that made me realize that there was definitely something else happening was as a result of the first sighting. After this, using my policeman's mind, I used to watch in the area where I'd seen this thing, and over a period of time, I saw many more of them. And it got to a fairly regular event. And I saw them at close range. I saw them doing aerobatics, almost on occasions as if they were doing them for me, on very remote hillsides. And then on one occasion, one came past, it flew over my head, and I flashed a light at it. And this thing turned round and came back. And as it got above my head, this was only about 25 feet above the ground. It had a long light on the front of it, a long elliptical shaped light. And as it got to my position, the light increased in intensity, went down, and then increased intensity and went down again, almost as if it was signaling me back. And then it turned and flew off again. I knew at this time this was an intelligently controlled machine who was acknowledging my signal. I was certain before this time that there were alien craft flying around, but this particular incident really convinced me of this.
So where are our alien visitors coming from? Or is it possible that they've been here all the time? If so, where?
Military and civil airline pilots from around the world have constantly reported having the most unusual experiences in the skies, including contact with UFOs. On September 19, 1979, a UFO followed a military aircraft over Germany. This is a close-up of the object. This B-52 Canberra bomber was flying over Edwards Air Force Base in California in 1954 when a UFO was seen near the aircraft. Here is a close-up of the UFO. Many pilots flying B-52 bombers reported seeing UFOs. This one was photographed at 12,000 feet in June 1966 over Utah by aircraft pilot Williams. An aircraft over Venezuela had a close encounter with a UFO. This photograph was taken from the plane. In June 1976, the British Airways Concorde was being filmed in flight when a small UFO appeared. After maneuvering around the plane in a manner that indicated intelligent control, the UFO flew off at great speed. This was witnessed by the whole crew. Here is a replay in slow motion. Of the hundreds of UFO sightings made by aircraft pilots every year, the most amazing one was filmed from a commercial airliner by passenger Gene Oldfield as the aircraft cruised at 9,000 feet over Stafford, England on April 2, 1966. The film clearly shows the ability of the craft to perform maneuvers and feats of acceleration far beyond our present comprehension. Here is the film again in slow motion. This photograph was taken on February 7, 1979 at Zurich Airport when a glowing UFO bathed in a bright light appeared in front of an aircraft. On April 14, 1977, a Swiss airline pilot had an encounter with a UFO. Hans-Georg Schmidt suddenly saw an object moving rapidly towards his aircraft. It stopped approximately 3 miles away, glowing intensely, and then shot off again. Both military and civil ground radar units who were tracking the object later informed the pilot that the UFO had moved at 5 times the speed of sound. At 9 p.m. on January 4, 1988, Captain Dowie Stahl noticed a light in the sky ahead of his position. The object appeared to descend and then started to dance from side to side. It then climbed back to its original position. Pilots who witness UFOs while in flight are required to complete an official but confidential report. This was one of the early films taken of a UFO. The dramatic movement of the object showed rapid, almost instantaneous changes of speed and direction, which sparked intense curiosity and confusion among the public and scientific community. No earthly aircraft of the time could perform like this. While filming from a helicopter for the U.S. Navy on April 15, 1966, Lee Hansen, a professional photographer, shot these pictures of a flying object at Catalina Island, California. The craft, which had no wings or tail fins, was 30 feet in diameter and moving at approximately 150 miles per hour. No signs of a propulsion system were visible. This film, shot by James Waters in Colorado on July 23, 1963, shows a UFO moving across the sky at tremendous speed, followed by a second one. This is the same film at 1/12th speed. An analysis showed that no earthly aircraft could possibly fly so fast. In late December 1978, a record number of UFO sightings were being reported by radar operators and pilots in the area of Wellington, New Zealand. Just before midnight on December 30th, 1978, Quentin Fogarty, a reporter, and a television team took off in an Argosy aircraft to fly to Christchurch. Shortly after takeoff, Fogarty was informed by ground radar that they were being followed by several UFOs. During the 50-minute flight, UFOs were seen and filmed by the crew. The UFOs were described as having a luminous base and a transparent top. The objects were performing incredible aerobatics. This movement was captured on a single frame of film. The following sequence of photographs and film was taken by the astronauts. While in space, they had many encounters with UFOs that are now being revealed for the first time after decades of secrecy. On the Gemini 4 spaceflight on June 3, 1966, astronaut James McDivitt took a photograph of this cylindrical object. On the mission of Gemini 7, astronaut Frank Borman reported seeing these two objects flying in formation. On the Mercury 1 mission on February 20, 1962, John Glenn took this picture of two glowing objects. On the Gemini 11 mission, September 13, 1966, Pete Conrad and Richard Gordon observed a cluster of UFOs alongside their craft. They described them as large and very bright. During the Apollo 11 mission in July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw these two UFOs, which were in orbit around the moon. The astronauts filmed the extraordinary glowing objects from the Apollo 11 spacecraft and reported to Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, that the UFOs even accompanied them to the moon. Many astronauts made their own private films while on space missions. This film, shot by James McDivitt in a long sequence, shows the remarkable aerobatic ability of UFOs. The astronauts faced UFOs so regularly that they became part of their everyday life. Because of restrictions, however, they were unable to describe their encounters to the public. One of the first to break the silence is former astronaut Brian O'Leary, a professor of physics and an astronomer from Princeton University, who comes forward for the first time to speak of the reality of visitation from out of this world.
What I do know from my own experience and from scientific investigations and experiments is that UFO phenomena and a range of other events are part of our reality, as incredible as they may seem.
Jetzt war es dann endlich soweit. Der erste Mann war auf dem Mond gelandet.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
During their moonwalks, a giant glowing UFO hovered above their heads. While in orbit around the moon, a huge object remained in view for a considerable amount of time before it suddenly disappeared. This UFO was seen above the landing site. This cigar-shaped UFO was photographed from the orbiting space module.
Down to the pad. That may have been a small deal, but that's a long.
On this very first trip into the unknown, the astronauts repeatedly reported to Mission Control that they were being escorted by unidentified flying objects. After landing on the moon, the astronauts stated that the UFOs were still present in the distance, hovering near a large crater. They were well aware that they had been observed throughout their entire mission.
It's also like sundown again. Yeah, powder. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. Now, May's the month. May, that's right. May is the year of the month. When, much to my surprise, a pair of lovely eyes. Hello, Ryan. It's Houston. Hi there. We lost you for a while. Yeah, we sure did.
The momentous leap to the moon led to the dawning of the space age. Space travel opened up endless opportunities for mankind to explore new frontiers. NASA's plans are already well underway for colonies to be developed on other planets, beginning with Mars.
Space offers unlimited growth. You cannot force any living form to stop growing. People need to grow, and they need to have more elbow room and new frontiers. And the opening of space provides that. And so the moon, and particularly Mars, as a new living environment, will provide hope for future generations, many, decades in the future, to continue to grow. If we don't do that, Earth remains closed. And